You're at McDonald's craving a cheeseburger, so you place your order and wait 20 minutes.
Order 67.
But once you see your food in front of you, you start feeling regret. You spent way more than you expected. Many people have this exact same experience at fast food restaurants. In recent years, fast food has almost tripled in price, suffered from slower service, and gotten worse in every other way imaginable. But why?
So slow.
Today, we are going to talk about the rise and fall of fast food restaurants, uncovering why prices skyrocketed, quality declined, and the countless hidden strategies they use to take as much money as possible from you. Modern fast food begins here. A small barbecue stand in San Bernardino, USA, with a company that we know today as McDonald's. This is Richard and Maurice McDonald. They are two brothers who loved cooking. It's the 1940s, and America was becoming increasingly car-centric. And as a result, drive-in restaurants were becoming a normal part of everyday life. So the McDonald brothers created their own drive-in restaurant, selling a wide variety of traditional diner foods. Customers would park outside, while waiters, or car hops as they were formerly called, came out to take orders and deliver food. It worked for the time, but it was slow, inconsistent, and expensive to operate. Convenient, but it wasn't revolutionary. The restaurant grew steadily, but after years of service, the brothers noticed something unusual. Most of their sales weren't coming from a wide menu. They were coming from just a few items, mostly hamburgers and milkshakes. And this realization changed everything. The McDonald's brothers made a decision that most restaurants at the time would never even consider: to shut down all operations. But not for the reason you may think. They rebuilt everything from the ground up, studied every step of the process, every movement, every delay, and every unnecessary action, and asked themselves one question: how do we serve food faster with less cost and more consistency? The answer was simple: a completely new system. No car hops, no long menu, no wasted movement, just a streamlined kitchen like an assembly line. Food, but faster than anyone had ever seen before. By 1948, the brothers had finished the construction of the first McDonald's that we recognize today. Fast queues, mass-produced patties, cheap prices, and a hyper-efficient kitchen layout. The rebrand experiment passed with flying colors. But their success wouldn't stay local for long. Meet Ray Kroc. He's a struggling businessman who spent decades selling milkshake mixers and paper cups with minimal success, really. Until 1954, he received a rather peculiar order.
McDonald's hamburgers here. Can we get 8 milkshake machines, please?
Sure, I guess.
Thanks, Ray.
What?
It seemed rather suspicious. Why would one tiny burger joint need to mix 8 milkshakes at the exact same time? Kroc was intrigued and wanted to see what was up. So he drove to San Bernardino to inspect the location for himself. He parked up, locked his car, and walked up to the restaurant. Kroc was pleasantly surprised. The super-fast service and simple menu had blown him away. He placed his order and waited 30 seconds. As he got his order, he took a bite and was impressed. Kroc was shocked that nobody else was doing this. So he called the brothers over and made a game-changing suggestion.
This business y'all got going on is great, but you know it could work anywhere, right? It's so scalable and easy to mass produce. Why don't you make more restaurants?
The brothers replied,
Well, we tried, but it was incredibly difficult for just the two of us to manage multiple locations.
So Kroc thought about it for a second, then made a proposal.
I'll help you. I'm a salesman. I reckon I could franchise and expand this business all across America.
The brothers paused, looked at each other, and said,
Sure, let's try it.
this was known as the expansion period. They started building new McDonald's locations all around the country, enforcing the exact same menus, designs, and processes on all of them. And within just a few years, McDonald's wasn't just a restaurant anymore. It had become a staple in American culture. But as the chain exploded, Kroc had hit a massive wall. He was pouring all of his energy into expanding, but his contract with the McDonald's brothers only gave him a tiny fraction of a percent of the burger sales. He was nearly going broke running the fastest growing food chain in America, until he met an interesting financial consultant. His name was Harry Sonneborn. Sonneborn took one look at the business model and told Kroc something that would change corporate history forever.
You're not in the food business. You're in the real estate business. You don't build an empire by selling 15-cent hamburgers. You build it by owning the land upon which those hamburgers are cooked.
So Kroc set up a separate company to buy land under every future McDonald's location. He then leased that land back to the franchises at a massive markup. Suddenly, corporate headquarters didn't care if a franchise had a bad week of burger sales, because the rent was always due. McDonald's had quietly become a multi-billion-dollar real estate empire disguised as a burger joint. And with that massive financial safety net, they had the unlimited capital to wage war. But even more eyes began watching, and many wanted a piece of the action. So, over 2,000 miles away in Jacksonville, Florida, two businessmen named Keith Kramer and Matthew Burns saw exactly what McDonald's had created. But they weren't just interested in copying it, they wanted to beat it. In 1953, they opened a restaurant called Burger King. And with that, the fast food war had officially begun. Burger King introduced flame grilling, a simple idea, but one that made their burgers taste completely different. Suddenly, McDonald's wasn't the only king anymore. Competition had arrived, and the competition changed everything.
Fast food take over all across the world.
Can you believe it? Fast food is taking over everywhere.
Kentucky Fried Chicken, Taco Bell, and Wendy's. Each one having their own gimmick that made them slightly unique off the same premise, all in competition to build the next fast food empire. But back then, it wasn't all about the businesses themselves winning. Instead, the customer actually won. You see, every company was desperate to have the cheapest food, the fastest service, the biggest burgers, and the best tasting fries. If Burger King introduced something new, McDonald's had to respond. If McDonald's lowered its prices, everyone else would follow. This was also the cause of the fast food third space. McDonald's started adding more seating, turning its restaurants into places people actually wanted to hang out, casually, and maintaining the fast food business model that made it stand out against the competition. But as per usual, everyone else copied, and that made it a standard today. The competition had become so intense that by the 1980s and 90s, fast food had entered what many people call now the golden age of fast food. Burgers for under $1, value menus everywhere, supersized drinks, play places for kids, and drive-thrus on every corner. Fast food felt faster, cheaper, and better. Business was booming, customers were happy, and everyone won. Or at least it looked that way. Because behind the scenes, a dark shift was taking place. The companies kept expanding, but eventually the market became saturated. There was a fast food joint on every corner. You couldn't easily grow by just building more stores anymore. Yet, Wall Street still demanded higher profits every single quarter. So, to squeeze out even more cash, the industry underwent a massive corporate transformation. Private equity firms started buying up famous fast food brands. Private equity firms don't care about the historical legacy of a burger or the nostalgia of a playground. Instead, their playbook is simple. Buy a brand using massive debt, aggressively slash operating costs to boost short-term profit margins, and raise prices before cashing out. Slowly, almost invisibly, the menu started changing to satisfy these investors. Ingredients became cheaper, real beef blends were quietly altered, and corporate chefs were tasked with finding cheaper chemical substitutes. This resulted in the calculated era of shrinkflation. They didn't just raise the price of your favorite meal, they shrank it. Bacon strips grew thinner, beverage cups were redesigned to hold fewer ounces, and burger patties lost a fraction of their weight. To hide this, they perfected psychological traps like the combo meal and upselling. The phrase, "Want fries with that?" was engineered because sides have astronomical profit margins compared to actual meat. It worked for a while, but eventually the world came to a breaking point. The pandemic arrived, causing production and delivery processes to break down, labor to become scarcer, and genuine inflation had surged, which in turn caused fast food companies to raise their prices out of necessity to survive. At first, it made sense, and most people understood why. But then, something shocking happened. Inflation began slowing down. The price of things like meat, bread, and vegetables stopped changing so much and stayed about the same. Yet, the fast food prices kept climbing higher and higher. Why is that? Because corporate executives looked at the data and realized something out of the norm. The people kept paying. You see, fast food companies had spent decades embedding itself so deeply into the fabric of everyone's busy and overworked lives that it had become an absolute necessity. So, during corporate earnings calls, executives openly admitted to investors that they were raising prices because they realized consumers had a high pricing tolerance. At this point, it wasn't just inflation anymore. It was greedflation, transitioning into its most aggressive form yet. The digital trap. To completely maximize every dollar, companies set out to eliminate their highest remaining cost. What was that, you may ask? Human labor. Mobile apps replaced cashiers, and self-checkout kiosks replaced friendly faces. These apps are not just giving out free coupons, they're masking something much darker. Data theft. Fast food apps track your location, ordering frequency, and habits. All the major fast food chains have begun experimenting with dynamic AI-driven pricing. If an algorithm tracks that you regularly order a specific meal on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m., the digital menu can actively alter your available discounts or subtly raise the price because it knows you're highly likely to buy it anyway. Have you noticed modern fast food restaurants look completely different now? The bright colors that were popular on the stores in the 1960s were replaced by grey, sterile, blocky buildings. The play places have been torn down, and indoor dining rooms have shrunk to the bare minimum. This was all because the corporate headquarters realized something. Letting customers sit down to eat costs them a lot of money. Cleaning bathrooms, emptying trash cans, and maintaining real estate causing them to not want you to stay anymore. Instead, they want you to order through an app, drive through a multi-lane pickup line, and leave immediately. A complete 180 shift from the fun and happy place that fast food restaurants used to be. Watch another video here and consider subscribing to the channel.